Yeah. Bills Mafia. Don Brown. Yeah. It's the Mafia, you know I'm rocking with the Bills. It's the Mafia, you know I'm rocking with the Bills. It's the Mafia, I'm with the Buffalo Bills. It's the Mafia, you know I'm rocking with the Bills. Hey, who you reppin', what's your team? Who you reppin', what's your team? You know I'm reppin' for my team. I got Josh Allen on my team. Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, can you catch it? Trade day is like a
Hello, Bills Mafia. What is up? And welcome into the Bills Brawl. This is the Process Show, your regular Thursday show. And your regular hosts are here. Myself, Charlie Gross, and my co-host, E.J. Daniels. E.J., how you doing?
I'm doing great. Any opportunity I get to have a conversation and speak to the Bills Mafia is a great day.
There you go. And we don't even have to have an emergency podcast. There's lots of news today. We're recording this on Wednesday, drops Thursday. And the Buffalo Bills, along with the arch nemesis, the Dallas Cowboys, have given us some stuff to talk about. Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott got a new contract, which is obviously relevant because Josh Allen's going to get a new contract. Dak Prescott, if I'm not mistaken, it's a $40 million a year average. I believe it's a 4-year, $160 million, $126 million guaranteed. And I think we're both of the opinion that Josh Allen gets that or more in his contract extension. I guess the only question I have now is, does Josh bridge the gap to the Mahomes contract?
Well, it would certainly look that way now, wouldn't it? But the question is, should it bridge the gap between Mahomes' contract? And the thing is like, I don't know necessarily if I want to go a hard press. Yes. Like I told you, Charlie, when we had our last podcast, what did I say? They asked me, when should they have signed Josh Allen? I said right after the Chiefs game. That's exactly when they should have signed him, because this thing's going to drag out and another quarterback's going to get signed. I'm going to bet my money it's probably going to be Lamar. He's going to get another contract, right? And then it's going to be like 42 guaranteed, right? And then it's going to go up and up.
Mahomes is at 45, right?
He's at 45, and it's going to be dangerously close to that. And as I refer back to the Brandon Bean podcast, when the PFF podcast he did, like I said, he was talking like he wanted Josh to play on that 5th year and show what he did last year wasn't a fluke. And yeah, I am of the same sentiment too. I would like to see him be more consistent, put these years together in a row. But in this day and age, if you got a guy and you think you got a guy, you got to sign him quickly. Because, like we just reiterated, Josh, the next big contract that's going to come down, I think it's going to be Lamar's, right? And Lamar's is probably going to have to be – it's going to have to be 41 or 42, you know what I mean? And the thing is, I think Lamar hasn't deserved another contract because he hasn't shown me that he's able to get it done from the pocket. He's won a playoff game now, don't get me wrong. But I don't think Lamar gets that big contract yet. I think he should play on that 5th-year option. I think a lot of these guys should be playing on 5th-year options, but, they've shown some semblance of being consistent at the quarterback position. So, they're going to get paid sometime. But, I think that they should have signed Josh Allen back after the Chiefs game. But, his number's going to get astronomical, and I'm scary how astronomical it's going to actually get.
Yeah, the next contracts for quarterbacks is Josh, Baker, Lamar, unless there's somebody on an expiring, second deal who's going for their 3rd deal. And your point about signing him right after the Chiefs game is interesting. And the Bills are smart. They're not, they're not stupid. I think they understand the market. So I wonder if they looked at it and said, hey, we got to pick up the option now. So that makes his 4th and 5th year guaranteed. Let's do one more year. And I guess what I'm saying is I wonder if they're of the mindset of either right now or if he does it again next year, that they were all along, if he does that, willing to pay that Mahomes number to Josh. So in their mind, if that's the case, they're like, who cares if Dak gets a new contract, if Lamar gets a new contract, because we've got it in our head that if Josh did what he did this year and maybe we want to see it again, we're going to give Josh 45 a year. We're prepared to do that, so who cares? I mean, I don't know if that's what they're thinking, but maybe.
If they are thinking that way, that is a very I don't want to say it's injudicious because it's not. If you have a quarterback that's producing, you should pay him, period. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You should pay him. But they're probably going to do a contract that's like more years than what Mahomes did. Like Mahomes' was 10 for 500.
You think so?
Yeah, because Josh is the native son of Buffalo. He can. I'm so serious. He literally can be the greatest player, period, to ever grace Buffalo. Like, especially if he wins a Super Bowl. Even now, though, he's getting into that stratosphere with the because we talked about the love that he gets before,
right?
You know,
yeah,
and
definitely.
and he loves the city, and the city love him. They embrace each other mutually, and it's like I could see him signing some crazy like 12-year deal or an unprecedented amount of years staying in Buffalo and then getting that big 45, 46, 47 million dollars, but stretching that thing over a 12-year span. I could see that happening because, you know, Buffalo, I mean, due to COVID, you know, it's cap strapped pretty much every team. And so every team is, you know, getting ready, is trying to maneuver this. But what you have to keep in remembrance, and with Dak's deal too, is they're getting ready to try to capitalize off of that TV money that's getting ready to hit.
Yeah.
So when that TV money hits, you know, Josh's contract probably is going to be bigger than Mahomes. I'm not willing to bet money on it, but the way it's looking like it's going to be bigger than Mahomes, man, and that's going to be crazy for the city of Buffalo. Just absolute pandemonium.
Yeah, I wonder if they were waiting for the TV deal. I know Jerry Jones kind of alluded to the fact that he knows what the TV deal is going to be and all that, and who knows if he's really telling the truth. I get that waiting to sign Josh isn't the best business decision maybe, and the Bills have been really great with that. Like, they just re-signed Micah Hyde. You know, they got in front of that, and that's a guy who they got for $9 million a year, who's on the open market, maybe gets 12, 13, something like that. So it's not that they're bad at business. So it begs the question, maybe they are talking to Josh now, but wanted to wait to see what the salary cap number was, get a better feel for the TV deals, or maybe they really just want him to see it again. I mean, if I was them, I'd sign him now. You know, pick up the option, just how they do in the Mahomes. Pick up the option, sign him to the extension, and it ends up being like, if you include the first 5-year contract, it's you got him for 15 years total.
Yeah, man. I think the strategy that they're taking, and like I said, the strategy that Bean's alluding to is, you know, making him play on that 5th year, and I don't think that's a bad move. I mean, we know that defenses in this league, they adjust, you know, and they are going to adjust to the Bills. They were the 4th highest graded overall team by PFF this year. I mean, they had the tie for the 4th highest graded offense this year too. So teams naturally have to adjust to what they're getting ready to do. So what does that mean? That means that they're going to regress to some extent. You know, they're not going to have a crazy year like they had. And they just lost John Brown, as we'll get into later. So, I mean, this team on offense is going to look drastically different. They lost their O-line coach to Stanford. So, you know, they're going to have probably a different, you know, pass blocking and run blocking scheme next year. So, Like I said, the team's going to look different. So how is that going to correlate to the wins? You know, how is that going to affect Josh Allen? Like, all this stuff matters. They still haven't even signed, you know, Darrell Williams back, and we don't know what they're going to do in the draft. So there's still a lot of unknowns. But, you know, my point is that, you know, making him due to those circumstances that's going to happen next year, making him, you know, play on that 5th year and see if he can handle that much change and that much turnover, because it's going to be turnover.
Right.
You know, see if he can handle that and then be like, okay, now we see this guy's a franchise guy. I mean, we know he has all the physical tools, but as I've discussed many times on this podcast, the mental part of the game, how does he handle these small, minute changes and details in his game, in the team, to warrant him getting that type of money?
Yeah, and I wonder how much crowd noise plays into that, because that's going to be the narrative to a point next year is, well, the Bills won 13 games and Josh Allen did did this and this and this, but they basically did it without crowd noise. And I wonder if the Bills are worried about that, and they say, okay, well, maybe halfway through next season, you go 8 games. Okay, no problem. Crowd noise, we're dealing with it. I wonder if that's something where he needs to prove that. But I like your point about the really small changes, and it's not only within the team. Teams are going to start game planning again. Okay, they weren't worried about the deep ball. Well, they better be worried about the deep ball now. So how does he adjust to what the other defenses are adjusting to? Right, what is the offensive line going to look like? And I'm glad you brought up Darrell Williams, because everyone's been talking about Matt Milano, and oh my God, what about Matt Milano? Oh, well, we cut these guys and we restructured these guys, so maybe that means that we can sign Milano. And I'm over here saying, how come I haven't heard a word about Darrell Williams? Yeah. It's just weird.
Yeah, we haven't heard anything, and that's alarming to me that we haven't heard anything. But again, back to your original point, they probably were waiting to see what the cap number is and to see, what's going on. They decided not to use the franchise tag, so we know Darrell Williams isn't getting the tag.
Right.
So the only other option is either signing him to a long-term deal or letting him walk. So I'm going to bet my money, since I wrote an article about this, that they're going to sign him to a long-term deal. I'm hoping that's what they do. That would be the judicious thing to do, to sign him to a long-term deal. If you're praying that, there's a lot of mock drafts that have, Tevin Jenkins, the right tackle from Oklahoma State, being the Bills' first-round pick. If you're betting on Tevin Jenkins being Tristan Wirfs, I wouldn't put my money in that. I would not bet on a right tackle from Oklahoma State being what Darrell Williams was last year. And so, again, going back to my point about Josh Allen, how will he, react to that? How will he, process that? How will his movement in the pocket be different? How will changing the launch point when he's getting pressure from that left side, how will that work? And I don't think we've seen Josh have to adjust as much as he's probably going to have to this year. But again, signing Darrell Williams is very paramount for the team. Maybe I'm just being impatient and we need to wait. But again, like you said, we're not hearing anything and they're not saying anything. So that is some sign and some cause for some caution, because, I was hoping they would either tag him or already have a long-term deal done. But again, we have to see and be patient and see what's going on here.
This tournament season, take care of your hair and holes with the best tools for the job. We're talking about our sponsors, Manscaped, the global leaders in male grooming from head to toe. When the clock winds down in March, be clutch and avoid the upset with the Manscaped Performance Package to keep all your hair and holes tamed. Manscaped is trusted by over 2 million men worldwide. Join the Manscaped movement and start taking care of your balls today with 20% off and free shipping by going to manscaped.com and using code BRAWL for our exclusive offer. Your bracket isn't supposed to be perfect, but with the Manscaped Performance Package, you can be confident that your nose, ear, and ball pubes are. The Manscaped Performance Package is the ultimate men's hygiene bundle and #1 overall seed this season. Included in this package is the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer. It provides proprietary skin-safe technology which helps reduce nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate holes. Look, fellas, 79% of partners polled admitted that long nose hair is a major turnoff. Why not use the best tools for the job here? This amazing bundle also includes the Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer, the best trimmer on the market for your balls, butt, and body. It checks every box for a Final Four run. Let's not forget their famous liquid formulations, the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and Crop Reviver Ball Toner, to maximize your ball hygiene routine and keep you fresh, ready for anything. Get the Performance Package now to receive their 2 free gifts, the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. Another favorite of mine are their Crop Mop Wipes, cool and refreshing ball, butt, and body wipes for peak male hygiene and extra care where it matters most. Your purchase goes towards a good cause because they partnered with the GOAT, Alex Caruso, and the Testicular Cancer Society to bring awareness to testicular cancer, men's health, and early cancer detection. Manscaped is committed to raising awareness for the most common form of cancer in men aged 15 to 35 and giving support to fighters, survivors, and families impacted by testicular cancer as part of their We Save Balls initiative. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code BRAWL at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code BRAWL. When things get hairy, make sure to call on Manscaped in clutch time.
Talking about the offensive line, we've got Mitch Morse, who restructured his contract a little bit. Some conflicting reports, I think, out there about why he restructured. There was a report that he was going to be cut, which I kind of find hard to believe in a way, because like you just said, we don't know the status of Darrell Williams, John Feliciano, what happens with Cody Ford. You don't want to create more holes for yourself than you have to. There's another report that he approached the team and said, hey, what can I do to help? Which I'm not sure which one to believe, but I'm assuming that it's probably that one. I think he cleared about $3 million worth of space to help the team this year.
I think it was reported to be $2 million in space.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And so based on what I've read, so my guy over at PFF, I have to mention my guy, Brad Spielberger, has a great article up on PFF.com that is free of charge about the terms you need to know, for the salary cap in this upcoming, year. And it was very helpful because, that is one part of my analyst game that I have to hone in on is, projecting contracts and understanding the cap and things like that. But, I read that article. And so Mitch Morris's situation came about, and then I read the article. And so basically, if I'm understanding this correctly, he didn't give back. They restructured the $2 million to put it as a signing bonus. And when you put it as a signing bonus, because he has the opportunity to make it back. So it probably means that it's an incentive. So if he plays well or plays a certain amount of snaps, and that's probably what it is, if he plays a certain amount of snaps, he'll get that extra $2 million that he gave back. So that's what it is. So a restructure doesn't necessarily mean that you're taking a pay cut. It just means that they're restructuring it in a different way, where it's maybe an incentive, or maybe they can pay it out longer like they did for Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey restructured his deal, and they took some of his money and made it a signing bonus money. They took some of his base salary and made it a signing bonus, which means that they can pay that through the life of his contract. So that's kind of what they did with Mitch Morse. They took some of that $2 million and they made it incentives, meaning he can earn it or not earn it. So it's kind of like an up in the air lottery type thing. So that's what I think they did.
Yeah, they moved some money around and it'll just hit the cap a little different.
Yeah, it's just not hitting them right away. And that's smart. It's not hitting them in the short term. The short window that the Bills have, so last year was the first year. They have realistically a 3-year, 4-year window before they pay Josh. So they have a 2-year window, to win a Super Bowl. That time is now. They got 2 years to win the Super Bowl. So I'd rather deal with all the cap dysfunction later when I'm not a contender, rather than now when I am a contender and they're only like 1 or 2 pieces away. So it was a very smart, shrewd move on Brandon Beane's behalf. Right.
And I think they've obviously had to scramble a little because they had set themselves up thinking that the cap is what it's going to be. And then you get into this season and there's nothing you can do really middle of a season to readjust contracts. You're just stuck with it the way it is. And as you mentioned earlier, I think the next point is, and I'm not sure how I feel about this, to be honest. I kind of understand why it was done, but John Brown has been cut.
Mm-hmm.
Saving about, I think once the other salary kicked in to make the top 51 salaries, I think it saves about $7.37 million. So the question really is what do they do now? He was really the only speed threat they had consistently. I know McKenzie, who I believe is also a free agent at the moment, but he wasn't a regular player. You've got Andre Roberts, who's a free agent. So this looks like, to me, like this is, at the moment, Gabe Davis is your number 2 wide receiver. You're probably going to see more Isaiah Hodgins next year, which we've talked about. And, I don't know if this is a Kenny Stills moment or they're going to try and snag a guy maybe day 2 of the draft or something. But the Bills' wide receiver room has the potential to look pretty different, certainly from a depth standpoint next year, for sure.
Yeah, John Brown was a very solid receiver. His time in Buffalo, he was very productive. He was PFF 12th highest graded receiver since he's been, in Buffalo. I mean, and the thing that what it really comes down to, and I've tweeted this out, many times. I tweeted writing on the wall probably every game this season after Gabe Davis made plays, because when you draft two wide receivers, and you don't even know what you have in Isaiah Hodgins. I mean, Isaiah Hodgins was a top 5 graded receiver in college. So you don't even know what you have in Isaiah Hodgins. And then you got Gabe Davis that can play in a slot and on the outside, show that he's able to make plays from both. But really what it comes down to is just, man, you got to find young, cheap talent. Easy place to find young, cheap talent is at the wide receiver positions, wide receiver, cornerback, places like that where you can find, young, cheap talent. I mean, they got a dog, and Stephon Diggs, so they're good there. And then now you just need, and then they got a slot guy and Cole Beasley. And then to just as a sidebar, I mean, Cole Beasley time coming up too.
I think he's got 2 years left this year and then next year, but he's in his 30s. So
yeah, he's in his 30s. He's getting up there, and he's coming off a broken leg, man. And there's reports, one of the pre-draft meetings that the Bills had was with Daz Newsome from UNC. And that's a speedster, So they're talking to wide receivers. They're making sure that they're doing their due diligence. They've also talked to Dax Milline from BYU, who's also a speedster, and they've talked to Amir Smith-Marset from Iowa, who's also a speedster, but that's more of a kick return, punt return guy. But my point is that they're talking to speedsters, man. They're talking to wide receivers. They're looking to add some wide receivers in this draft, so it would be very judicious on their part to add a slot guy. And it would be very smart on their part to also add another wide receiver. I mean, I really think that this team is only a couple pieces away, but you can never have too many wide receivers, or you can never have too many cornerbacks.
Yeah, and we talk about it all the time, right? Like, we want them to get more speed, and they cut their only speed guy. So, yeah, you better be talking to some speedsters somewhere.
Well, he isn't their only speed guy. And see, that's the thing. That's the misconception that comes about Gabe Davis, is that he's only like a contested catch kind of guy, or can only make certain type of plays. At UFC, he was top 5 in deep touchdowns, which are touchdowns of 20-plus yards or more. He can get down the field. He just wasn't asked to do it as much as Smoke was.
But I'm talking about we need our Tyreek Hill. Give me the Rondell Moore. Even if you play one game a year, Rondell.
Nah, they don't need Rondell Moore. Everybody keeps saying, give me Rondell Moore. And I like Rondell Moore.
In the 4th round.
Player. Exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth. If the draft is about finding value, and the Bills are going to have to either draft them in the 1st round or the 2nd round. When there is a deep wide receiver class, wait to get a wide receiver. The Bills need a cornerback. They need an edge rusher. Put your resources there. We have wide receivers. They have wide receivers. I mean, and they still got Kenny Stills too. So, I mean, wide receiver isn't a pressing need, but having more at the position who can contribute is always a plus. And then we still got to think about tight end. Everyone's clamoring for a tight end.
Yeah.
What are they going to do with Dawson Knox? I would personally like to see them go get Gerald Everett, maybe Brevin Jordan in the 4th. I mean, like, you got to think, man. I want teams to allocate their resources efficiently and judiciously, but that never happens, though. It never happens. Charlie, you said it last week. Teams never do what they're supposed to do, ever.
No, and that's kind of why I even went into my analytics thing, is because I just got sick of teams doing goofy stuff. Like, what are you doing? It just, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense, and they're taking guys. I don't want to say they're taking guys in the wrong spot, but you can tell which teams know value of positions and how to get draft value, and which teams don't. And I certainly have confidence in the Bills that they can get value. And in fact, I mean, their first rounders have been good. Their later picks have been okay. They've had some hits and misses, but let's be honest. They got Milano, Dane Jackson, Darrell Johnson, 7th round guys. Those guys are contributing. You don't expect them to be starters necessarily. A team doesn't go into a draft being like, man, I know this 7th round pick is going to be a starter for us. But they're looking for contributors. Guys like Darrell Johnson, who 20% of the defensive snaps, 80% of the special team snaps. Same thing. So we'll see. And moving to the defense, I don't know who's happy, who's not. I know there was probably some people popping bottles but probably didn't think it went far enough. Quinton Jefferson gets cut. Vernon Butler, who I think everyone thought should get cut, takes a pay cut or a restructure. Reports are that they told him if he didn't, that he was going to get cut. So I think there's some mixed feelings there from the Mafia, but I understand at the same time, at this point, you need bodies. You can't just cut everybody. I mean, You don't know what's going to happen in the draft. You don't know what's going to happen in free agency. You have a plan, but you don't even know if Starr's coming back. You need bodies on the defensive line. You can't just go in with Ed Oliver and Justin Zimmer and Harrison Phillips, defensive tackle. You need bodies. So what are your thoughts on Quinton Jefferson and Vernon Butler, two guys who did come on a little bit at the end of the year?
Yeah, I thought Butler more than Jefferson. I thought they both flashed. I mean, they both were, if I'm not mistaken, they both were on 1-year deals or maybe 2-year deals. I know one of them was on a 1-year, and obviously Butler must be on a 2-year. But I mean, they both flashed. They both had moments, where they were solid players. More so Vernon Butler than Quinton Jefferson. Like Quinton Butler flashed so much in the run game. Like there was a lot of plays that he made in the run game that go overlooked because it was like one play out of like 15. But
right,
when you only paying him $1 million, I mean, I can't really ask for him no more than that. I'm not coming in there asking him to beat Aaron Donald. I'm coming in there.
But I hear Aaron Donald's bad at run defense.
Yeah, because he's getting double 80% of the time. So yeah, you're right. He's getting doubled by NFL guards. Yeah, he's gonna be. He's undersized as it is. So yeah, he probably is because he's getting double and triple team. But I'm not asking Quinton. I'm not asking Vernon Butler to be, Aaron Donald. I'm asking him to be a contributor, and that's what he was. I mean, he played his role. I can't be mad at them restructuring his deal. Like you say, you can't cut everybody. And I thought Vernon Butler, out of all the 1-year linemen besides Addison, I thought he played the best. Towards the end that Chiefs game, there was a report that he was hurt. He hurt his quad. So, I mean, I don't know if anyone's here listening has ever hurt their quad, but it definitely hurts. And it definitely hinders your get off, hinders a lot. So if you're trying to, run into and block and shed blocks of 300-pound linemen, it's probably not going to happen. And so you saw that play at the end of the Chiefs game when they got into the red zone and he kind of just got moved out of there. So that makes sense now. Like when he got moved, like he probably was hurt. So, I mean, Vernon Butler played his role, and that's pretty much where I stopped with that.
Right. So this is real interesting because you're kind of trying to figure out where does this leave the Bills? What's the plan? I mean, we know what we hope is the plan, but what's the plan for them? Because as you said, you want them to get a cornerback too. At the same time, Brandon Beane's talking up Dane Jackson. Milano's probably going to go. You got these guys cut on the defensive line. For a team that's a contender, I still feel like there's quite a few holes on this roster. I don't know if they can fill them all with quality starters given the salary cap. So there's going to be an element of let's run it back. So how do they run it back better is, I think, a lot of what they have to figure out, especially defensively. I think offensively, if you protect Josh, like you said, they have enough weapons. You protect Josh, you've got to get the offensive line figured out. You've got to figure out what's going on. What's Cody Ford doing? Are you keeping Williams? But great quarterback play, I think, can make up for deficiencies on offense. But defensively, what are we doing differently? I mean, how are we getting more pass rush? I mean, I don't know.
I think what they have to do is be honest about what's on their roster. And you say, oh, duh, EJ, of course they have to be. But no, like every team is not honest about what's actually on their roster. You guys have heard me say many times on this podcast that Trey White is not a top 5 corner. He's a top 10 corner, 6 through 10, right? So the Bills are only going to play tougher competition this year. I don't have their schedule right in front of me right now. But teams are going to come after the Bills next year. The Bills are no longer that underrated team that everybody's like, oh, it's such a great Cinderella story. They are now the hunted now. They were 1 game away from the Super Bowl.
It's it's the South and the South.
The South and the South. So they got the NFC South and the AFC South. So they're going to have to play the Bucks, right?
Plus Kansas City and whoever was first Pittsburgh, right? Whoever was first in the North, the AFC North.
Which was Pittsburgh, because they won 11 games. So, yes, it had to be them.
Yeah.
So, and then you got to get better at cornerback too. Dane Jackson's there. And to your first point that you made, why can't they do both? Why can't Dane Jackson start and then they also draft the corner? You can never have too many DBs though, but teams won't see it that way, and that's what sucks. You can never have too many high-end DBs. And as far as the defensive line, I would like to see them get younger at the interior defensive line. You got a good start with Justin Zimmer. He should be the backup one tech. You got Harrison Phillips. You got Ed Oliver. Ed Oliver got better pass rushing this year by the numbers. So he's making progress. He's not there yet, but he's making progress. Let's get another edge rusher in free agency with all this cap that's being cleared, and that's how you get better. Again, remember, guys, the Bills are only a couple pieces away. They're not a whole roster away. They're like 2 or 3 players away. And if I can get a high-end contributing corner, if I can get an edge rusher in free agency, and then I can get some solid contributors in the passing game and re-sign my right tackle, man, the Bills will be right back there. They'll be right back there, man. And as far as Cody Ford goes, he needs to earn his spot. We need to see him take football seriously. I mean, there's too many reports of him, prioritizing video games over football work. We need to see you take it seriously. You're a professional. So we need to hear and see you acting like a professional. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with playing video games, but you shouldn't be in training camp staying up all night playing video games when you're a professional NFL lineman. That's my only point. So if they can get the stuff that I just previously mentioned together, get that right, I can definitely see them, being back in the same position that they were this year.
I love your point about, taking multiple players at positions. I think fans do this a lot, and I'm certainly guilty of it at some point. And I think a lot of teams say, okay, well, this is our guy here at cornerback 2. And to their credit, I mean, they did try to sort of do it by committee. They had Levi Wallace, they had Josh Norman, they had E.J. Gaines. E.J. Gaines opts out. But to your point, you can have Dane Jackson compete for cornerback 2, but you could also draft 2 other guys. Same thing with the offensive line or the edge rusher. You can draft more than one guy, especially how Sean McDermott loves rotation. He loves rotating his defensive linemen. He seems to not mind rotating his offensive linemen. So I feel like you're painting yourself into a box. And while I don't think there's any team who really is going to take best player available regardless of anything, I know most teams take best player available at a position of need. I think you need to land somewhere in the middle. You can't be afraid to take a guy just because your plan is, okay, well, my plan is Dane Jackson. So if whoever your cornerback 1 or 2 is manages to fall to 30, take him. Yeah, you don't just say, well, we have Dane Jackson. And I think that's where fans and teams fall into these things. So I love your point about that. Just take talent, make the talent work.
Absolutely. And I got to go back to my point that I made, because I made it at the beginning of the week. Go back to my point about CeeDee Lamb. That's the poster child for my thoughts about the draft. Dallas did not need CeeDee Lamb at all, but they took him because he was the best player available, and look how he worked out for them. He's a solid. In his first year, he is a solid starting slot wide receiver in the league, which is a starting position in the NFL. Yeah, and their offense was able to stay afloat with their quarterback out. And so my point, to go back to Dane Jackson. Well, before I go into that point, somebody asked me a question last week, and I want your thoughts on this, Charlie.
Okay.
They said, "Do you think that Sean McDermott is he a rigid coach?" And I said that he is to a certain degree, because he has his system, he has his guys, and no matter what, I'm going to run my system and I'm going to play my guys. To the Josh Norman point, to any other guy, the AJ Kleins, like, I have my guys, I'm comfortable with these guys, and I'm not going to adapt. And that's one of the things I hate about coaches. They don't adapt to the league. They don't adapt to the trends that go on, in the NFL. So to go back to the point about the draft, if many people are mocking Asante Samuel Jr. or Greg Newsome from Northwestern to the Bills as another cornerback. And so will Brandon Beane and McDermott be able to switch their philosophy and say, hey, this is a super, super important position on the field. So let's take the BPA and stay good at this position and be able to compete with the better teams in the NFL who have better passing attacks, because that's the type of league that we're in right now. Or like you said, to your point, Charlie, it's just like we need an edge rusher, so we're going to take the best edge rusher available. Again, I want people to hear me. I want people to, like, when they listen to me speak, feel like they learn something. The draft is about finding value. And the question is, like, is Beane and McDermott concerned about finding value or finding guys that they're comfortable with?
And I think it's like a 50-50 for me with McDermott, and maybe 50% of it is what I thought he was. You hear defensive coach and you hear this or that, and my first thought was, oh, man, this guy's not going to, go for it on 4th and 2. He's going to punt, trust his defense, all that stuff. And then we come in and he's going for a 4th down all over the place. I'm like, yes, thank God. So that part was so refreshing. But there are a lot of things about him that are frustrating in terms of the system. And I think it's more defensively than offensively. This rotation defensive lineman. Man, just get your best 4 guys and play them 80% of the time, whatever it is. I mean, I know guys get tired. I'm not saying, but how many teams have 8, serviceable guys who can take 30, 40% of the snaps? I'm not sure that really exists. Maybe the Giants back, when they beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl, might have been the only team ever to have that many serviceable defensive linemen. So I think they just need to find 4 guys who are really good and play them. And then we're going to see, because we've talked about this very, very often, about whether it's the big nickel or the 3 safety system or whatever you want to, whatever qualifiers you want to put on that. Are the Bills going to do that? We don't know. I feel like Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott came in here and said, okay, we're going to build the Carolina Panthers, except we're going to pass the ball a lot because we've got a quarterback who can actually throw. But I think, like, defensively, there need to be changes made. You can't be afraid to not change your system. You may want heavy-handed defensive ends, but you're telling me that if a younger, I don't know who, I'm just going to throw in a younger Von Miller's available, you're not going to, like, try and get him because he's not heavy-handed, he doesn't weigh 280? I don't know. I mean, like if you have that guy, then that's going to make everybody on the line better. It's going to make Oliver better. It's going to make Hughes better, all that kind of stuff. So I think he is rigid to a point, and we're going to see. This is a great offseason to see how rigid or how non-rigid he is, because I think you do have to change some things in order to contend with the Tampas and the Kansas City, especially defensively.
Yeah, man, I just thought that was an interesting question because it caused me to just pause and actually sit and think about it, because I love Coach McDermott. I mean, I think what he's done with Buffalo since he's been here has just been amazing. Buffalo hasn't been a winner, for like the past, 10 to 15 years, a consistent winner, that is. And so for him to do what he's done, and then almost be one game away from the Super Bowl, I think is just absolutely remarkable. I'm from Western New York. I'm from Rochester, New York. So I've seen the Bills my whole life. And he's probably one of the best coaches, they've ever had in their history, besides Marv Levy, who got him to 4 straight Super Bowls. But, I mean, I love Coach McDermott. But, one of the things about Coach Levy, now mentioning him, is just like when he lost to the Denver Broncos and they beat them with that no-huddle system, he implemented that system in Buffalo, if I'm not mistaken, and now they had the K-gun. And so that's an example of a coach adapting to something that worked. It's a copycat league. Everyone says that, and I know coaches think like their system is the greatest system that's ever created, but I would like to see Coach McDermott, because it's specifically with the defense, like you said, because it's not much offense. Like Dable is a really good offensive play caller, but it's more with the defense. It's just like, run some more concepts. Like you said, you deploying 8 bodies and you're deploying so many bodies on defense. It's not like you don't have the personnel to run different sets, different sub packages and stuff like that. No, be more creative. Don't be so rigid. Just don't sit back there in zone. Sometimes come after teams. Like we've seen it against Denver. They came after Drew Lock a lot. Maybe that's just because of the quarterback, but we've seen him be able to switch it up and be able to be multiple and be versatile. So I would like to see that more often. And I think in this draft, they will set themselves up to do that, especially if they, get one of their top picks. Like if they get their second round pick or their first round pick, they trade back and get more picks. They'll be able to be in a position to get more versatile. So I would like to see Coach McDermott, like you said, not be as rigid. And then we'll see this offseason and this draft, how rigid he actually is.
The counterbalance to that is you wonder if he really does want to be more aggressive, but he feels like, and maybe especially on the back end, that he doesn't have the players on the back end that can withstand that. Because you want to get organic pressure with 4, but maybe sometimes you have to bring 5. But maybe he's thinking to himself, man, Levi Wallace, I can't come with 5 because I don't trust Levi, certainly in a man-to-man situation, not at all. And for that matter, Trey's not the best man-to-man guy either.
Want to get in on the action? Thanks to our partnership with DraftKings, new users can play free fantasy sports with a first-time deposit. Here's how it works. Create your new DraftKings DFS account, play free fantasy sports with your first-time deposit, compete against others and rack up points as you compete for first place. Enter now. This offer won't be around forever. Just go to dkng.co/brawl to get these rewards. That's dkng.co/brawl. Act quickly. This won't be around forever. Minimum $5 deposit. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
That's kind of just limiting you in a way of some of the stuff that you can run, I think, in terms of how aggressive you want to be. So we'll see how many changes they can make or how willing they are to make. And maybe with the salary cap being so low, we're going to have to really wait till next offseason to see. Because the cap, this year is 182.5, and I'm assuming it sounds like stadiums are going to be full. There's a new TV deal on the horizon, and the salary cap next year could be like 225. So all of a sudden you've got $45 million, more in salary, and maybe some of the things they wanted to do this year are going to have to be postponed to next year just for salary cap reasons. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, salary cap is going to definitely determine a lot. When that TV money kicks in, I don't know. The Bills I can't really say the Bills have been aggressive in free agency, but they've gone after free agents though. They've shown that they're willing to go after and spend money when it's necessary to spend. They're prudent with the money, and I like that. They're not too aggressive, but they're not laying back and letting people come to them or letting free agents just fall by the wayside. Going up and going to get Stephon Diggs, that was a great move. Obviously, you see how that panned out, and they did last free agency go after Greg Olsen to try to fill that tight end need. So they've shown that they can go after free agents and get them. And then now that Buffalo's a winner now, it'll definitely be easier to recruit some of those mid-level free agents. You won't get the high price guys because the high price guys can pretty much dictate where they want to go, and it comes down to minute details of what's the weather like, what's the state income tax like. And the reason I bring that up is just because I was listening to a PFF interview with Allen Robinson, and he was we can all say that he's a top 10 receiver in this league. He's an elite receiver, but he was mentioning things like, I care about, because he was saying he didn't care about who his quarterback was. He was cared about, playing in a big market, what's the weather like, what's the state income tax like, and that's what these guys care about, And so if we're just being honest about Buffalo, it's a bigger market, but it's not a big market.
No, definitely not.
Right. The weather here is, for most part of the year, is crappy. Let's just say it. It snows all the time, and I know guys not really, trying to do that. Like I said, when they can go to places like Miami or Cali and places like that to play and win too. So, that's kind of the things that work against Buffalo. But, when that money hits, Buffalo will definitely be, aggressive in free agency. They should specifically be aggressive with getting an edge rusher. That is a need for the Buffalo, and I'm trying to explain to people that you don't fill needs in the draft. You fill needs in free agency with veterans, with proving commodities. There are some high-priced edge rushers in this class of free agents that can contribute to the Bills right away. So I would like to see them, be aggressive in that aspect with an edge rusher, because that is what they need.
Yeah, if they said we're going to leave everything alone and add one player, I would want it to be an edge rusher. I just think that that's so impactful. And I know people debate pass rush versus coverage and that kind of thing. And I just think a proven edge rusher would be so impactful, especially for Ed Oliver. But as I mentioned, for Jerry Hughes and getting more consistent pressure on the quarterback can only help your coverage. It's not going to hurt. And certainly that should also help Tremaine Edmonds. I think that one thing that, has hurt him a little bit, maybe not as much this year as it did last year, but there are some guys getting blown off the ball, back into his space that doesn't allow him to come up into gaps maybe how he should. But if I had to pick between a cornerback, an edge rusher, wide receiver, offensive lineman, and I would pick the edge rusher. I think that would make the biggest impact.
Here's the thing with that conversation, and not to get too off on this, but I had this similar conversation with a crazed fan on Twitter, and he backed down because I made this point. So everyone's consensus opinion is that the Bills' pass rush sucked, right? Even though they were a top 9 graded pass rush by PFF, right? So everyone would agree that their pass rush by the eye test sucked, right? But the Bills' defense was 17th highest graded defense overall out of 32, so they were middle of the pack. But their pass rush sucked, and they couldn't stop the run. So how are they? So my question is, how are they middle of the pack, right? That was my question. How are they middle of the pack, right?
Right.
And I told him, I said, because coverage is king. That is why they were middle of the pack. They didn't suck at coverage. They were actually pretty solid at coverage. They were actually like close to middle of the pack in coverage, if I'm not mistaken. And because of that, that's why the defense didn't look as bad. And also the fact that they forced a lot of turnovers. So that's going to help too. But the one thing is, you cannot count on that turnover number being the same from year to year. That is something you can't predict, of how many turnovers.
No, that's very volatile.
Yeah, exactly. It's a super volatile stat, and you cannot count on that season in and season out, creating that many turnovers. So, again, my question at the beginning of this is, how are the Bills a middle-of-the-pack defense with a sorry run defense and by the eye test, a sorry pass rush? Why? I want to know why. And I kept asking the same question, and he was like, don't you know this or this and that? I said, bro, it's because they can cover. That's why. That's been the strength of their defense for the past 3 seasons. They can cover. They have almost the best safety tandem in the league. They have an all-pro corner, and Levi doesn't suck. He's just not.
No.
He's just not where they need to be for them to win a Super Bowl, in my opinion. So that is why they're middle of the pack. And so I always make this point. It's like, that's why coverage is king. If you can cover, you can cover up a multitude of sins, and by the Bills Mafia eye test, the pass rush was bad. So my only thing is, the point I'm trying to make is, use your common sense and your logic. If you're saying the pass rush is bad and they couldn't stop the run, they had to be good somewhere if they were middle of the pack.
Right. And I think some of that too is the pass rush. It's so weird because, quarterbacks just don't hold on to the ball as much as they used to. So as much as I want an edge rusher, then sometimes I find myself thinking, well, even if we got one, would it matter? Right. Because it's like these guys want to get the ball out so fast. So what is the solution? Maybe it is more coverage. Maybe it's just playing better run defense, and leaving kind of the pass rush alone. Playing defense has gotten so weird. Over the last 30 years, they've changed so many of the rules. It certainly isn't like what it was when the Bills went to the Super Bowl. There's no, hand contact anymore, all that kind of stuff. it's very difficult. It's almost like every defense now really is a bend but not break defense, just because there's so much passing. You're just trying to it's like they say, you can't stop Michael Jordan or whoever it is, LeBron, whoever you want to say. You can only hope to contain them. And I feel that's what defense has become, is you're just trying to contain the other team's offense. It's very rare when you can stop. I mean, anyone can stop like the Jets offense, but
not the Rams.
But you know what I mean? Like, you're just trying to contain Mahomes. You're trying to contain Lamar. You're just trying to survive in advance at that point.
Yeah, and it's funny that you bring that up, because I was like last Friday, I was just on my article ground. I was just reading so many articles, right? So I came past this one that's on PFF.com. And if you guys are wondering why I always reference PFF, that is the database and stats. That is the one I have easy access to, and I do not have to pay for. Paying for statistics is a B. I don't want to curse because I'm not a curse guy, but is a B. And not having to invest in that when you're in the field that we are, the media field, and talking about sports, you need some type of statistics to back up what you say. So that's why I refer to PFF a lot, because I don't have to pay for them. I work for them. I do stuff for them.
I'm glad that you work for them, because I'm like, yo, man, like,
right.
That stuff's pricey. I'm not gonna lie.
That stuff is pricey. An elite subscription for the year is $200 a year.
Or $35 a month. I'm like,
exactly. It's expensive,
like, you're killing me here.
But you do need this stuff if you in the field that we are in. But not to get off on that point. I just wanted to make sure the people understand, where I'm coming from. But my point is, I was reading an article about my favorite writer, Seth Galina. He's my new favorite writer, and he had a article about what you're talking about, Charlie, the evolution in the more prevalence of too high safety defenses, the cover fours, cover twos, how teams are been playing this, more than ever, because of the Mahomeses, because of the Joshes, because of the Rodgers, you can only hope to contain these passing attacks. So you have to do something to offset that. And he was saying, like, this year was the year that the most two-man coverages two-man pre-snap looks was played this year, and teams are trending that way. The Bills have been ahead of this curve. They're already playing too high defenses with Poyer and Hyde. They're already been ahead of this curve, but more defenses are going to trend this way. And the offensive counter to that is, running more concepts where there are a lot more over routes, being able to flood these zones, confuse these safeties, or, you see some of these safeties come down. Micah Hyde is probably the best I've ever seen at this, coming down and slicing those crossing routes, making sure, because that's one of the most prevalent routes in offenses today, those deep crossers, those deep overs, running those. And the Bills have been, one of the best defenses because they have been ahead of the trend running these too high defenses.
Yeah, and the Bills, conversely, the Bills offense does really well with running deep crossing routes as well. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things that they've had a lot of success with. And yeah, so going back to our point about McDermott, is he going to, and Bean, are they going to realize they need even more defensive backs? They need those guys. I almost wonder if they should only rush three. Do you drop another guy? Are we at that point where you're dropping another guy into the second level maybe, and just say we're not going to be able to get to the quarterback, so we're just going to drop 8 and cover and hope for the best? It's going to be really interesting as the years go on, because I don't see any slowdown in the NFL's desire for more points, and they're certainly not going to change the rules back.
No, they're not. And that's what sucks about the NFL, is like, it sucks to me because you can't see true defensive back play because they're not able to touch the wide receivers after 5 yards.
Right.
And they call PI for almost every little ticky-tack thing. You can't hit them. Like, they have built all the rules for all the DBs to lose. And that sucks because you can't see true battles like you see with, Deion Sanders and Michael Irvin back in the day, or Deion Sanders and Jerry Rice. You can't see those physical battles, that we've come to know and love. But, to your point, there's more points put up. And for the most part, I'd say the defenses, they've caught up and they figured out how to adjust. I mean, these defensive coaches are, better than they've ever been. Like you said, I mean, in the last 30 years, it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it was, stop the run and you're straight. I mean, that's how you win games. Stop the run the football effectively, and that's how you win games. Now it's contain these passing attacks, drop as many people as you can in coverage, get as many people, rush for, and see if you can get pressure like that and drop more people in coverage. That's how you're going to win. Look at what the Raiders did to Kansas City that first time, And to your question, you said maybe the Bills should think about rushing 3. I don't think they should think about rushing 3 is because if you go back to the Super Bowl, both tackles for Kansas City were down, so they had less than average tackles, out there. So I think at a certain point you have to be able to take advantage of that, and that's what the Bucs were able to do. They were able to take advantage of the Chiefs' lack of pass protection, and subsequently, they won the game. So I think the Bills should be in that same position, that when they have less than average tackles alongside them, across from them, they should be able to take advantage of that with their defensive line.
Okay, I've been thinking about this thing for pass interference for like 5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I think they should just change it to the college rule.
What's the college rule?
If it's pass interference, it's just 15 yards and a first down. There's not going to be like an 80-yard penalty anymore, or a 60-yard penalty. It's not like you get the ball where the foul. It's just 15 yards.
Oh, so it's not a spot foul?
No, it's just
basically
15 yards and a first
just
down.
15. I gotta say, do I hate that?
Because people always say, well, then people are going to commit pass interference all the time. And I'm going to say, well, eventually the team on offense is going to get down to the 1 yard line because you're going to be giving them 15 yards and a first down. I mean, if you commit 8 pass interference penalties in a row, they're just going to go right down the field. Anyway.
Here's why I hate this. And the play happened in the Super Bowl. So Mike Evans ran a 9 down the left sideline. And the DB that he beat grabbed his legs up on his way down, prohibiting him from getting the ball, right? If he catches that ball, it's a touchdown. I mean, Mike Evans has done it 100 times. If I get that call, that PI call, right, based on what you're saying, I mean, I would never get a touchdown because I'm only getting – because what if that play happens at your own 25 and then you only get, 15 yards of field position where you could have got a touchdown? You know what I mean? So you should be rewarded for being better than the guy across from you. And Mike Evans draws a lot of pass interference calls. Chase Claypool drew the most pass interference calls for a rookie this year. So that stuff matters, and they're talking about doing a thing statistically where they're giving wide receivers credit for those yards that they create on those penalties. So I am for that. So I can't get with the 15 yards thing because you only get 15 yards no matter what. If you trip me up and I'm all the way down at the 2 yard line, I got to go all the way back to wherever the spot occurred. I only get 15 yards. It's too absolute for me. It's not a realistic reflection of the play or how the game is actually going. So I can't get behind that one.
All right. I was just because I think pass interference has gotten so ridiculous. You just like breathe on the guy almost at this point, and it's like a pass interference call. And while I'm all for that play, like if you're tripping up a guy, then yeah, it's a penalty. But I think if there's some contact, it's not going to be the end of the world. Of course, if they had implemented my 15 yards and a first down rule, I don't think the Bills win that Rams game last year.
Right. That Rams game was quirky, man. That was a quirky, wild game. I watched
it was
game from start to finish. Trey White looked like trash.
Oh, those like sideline to sideline routes. He just looked confused.
He was not covering those routes good. I mean, the Rams, came back, stormed back. Jalen Ramsey gave up his only touchdown of the year to Stephon Diggs. Like that was a wild and quirky game. That was a great game, and they may see the Rams down the line, man. I mean, in the Super Bowl, the Rams got a new quarterback. So I mean,
yeah, man, Rams. There's some Rams fans out there who are thinking that Stafford's going to be like the MVP this year and all kinds of stuff.
They said he's a sleeper, man. They said he's a sleeper to win MVP, and I don't hate it. Listen, the only knock that is about Stafford is his first couple years in the league, he was behind bad O-lines. That's number one. And then number two is just like Detroit's really never had great teams on both sides of the ball for him. He's been a solid quarterback. He's been a top 15 quarterback. And that's all you need to get to the Super Bowl is a top 15 quarterback play. He's consistently been that. Now, they were making an assertion like, oh, well, I don't think Matthew Stafford pushes the Rams needle. It's like, how? Jared Goff had the most turnovers in the last 2 years. Strictly off that alone will be a better team.
Yeah.
So, but going back to the Bills, those are the type of teams, these teams that are balanced and that can run and pass, especially like you said, stretching the field sideline and sideline with these deep over routes, which is what the Rams run a lot of. Like, they're going to have to be able to compete with this. They're going to have to be able to have athletes on the back end that can run with these guys, and they don't have that. That's why they struggle. If they didn't get off to a big lead against the Rams, they could have easily got blown out that game. So, the Bills going to have to address the athleticism speed issue. Hopefully Bean does it. I'm so interested. This is one of the most anticipated off seasons I've ever been a part of and ever been able to witness. So I am here for it. I want to see what the Bills do because it's going to be so interesting to see which direction they go.
Is there anything else you want to cover before we get out of here?
Which free agents do you think the Bills should be going after right now? The guys that just got cut or not franchised?
Oh, man. I'd love to see him, like I said, get a pass rusher. I just think that's so expensive. You got guys like Ngakoue or Judon. What are those guys getting? Like 20? And I know you can futz around with salary cap, but still, those are big numbers. The offensive line, it's pretty terrible for free agents unless you need a center, and we don't need a center.
Well, Gabe Jackson just became available, and he's been a solid guard. And then Kevin Zeitler, he's been a solid guard too. And
that might take care of our problem, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't hate both of those for the guard. I would not hate any of those signings. Those would be solid signings.
Yeah, I think it's really about, as much as I want an edge rusher, I really think it's about the offensive line and figuring out the coverage. Mm-hmm. And those are the two things that I think are most important.
Yeah, I think I would have to echo exactly what you're saying. I honestly would like to see the Bills go after Kyle Rudolph, man. I think he'd be a great.
Oh no, I'd be on with that.
Yeah, he'd be a great fit. Blocking guy, team guy. But I don't see that happening because he took a shot at Stephon Diggs last week.
Oh, Kyle.
He did it subliminally, but he did take a shot at him. He said, so they were talking about the offense and how it changed. They run that wide zone schemes.
Yeah.
And so he was saying, like, I could either, basically what he was saying was, I could either, adapt or sit on a sideline and cry about it. That's his exact quote. So we all know who he's talking about because Stephon Diggs definitely blew up a couple times on the sideline. So I don't see that happening. And then, like, at the end of the day, these are grown men. They can get past their differences, but, at some point they would definitely have to talk about that. But, he would be the best fit for me because he can do both. He can block and he's pretty sure-handed. And again, as I mentioned last week, I know a tight end that pretty much can't catch open passes. So he would definitely be an upgrade. Your boy
Duke Williams?
Catch open passes. Oh, Duke Williams now. Yeah, okay. Nah, Duke actually catches the ball, actually. Duke's had a lot of
the playoff game.
Duke, come on, man. You really doing that?
Man. I gotta keep Duke down. There's a big Duke fan club, and I gotta keep Duke grounded, man.
Is he still on the practice squad?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think so too.
He's gonna be on the practice squad till he's like 40.
Hey, that's cool. He'd be cool with that.
You know what? We get to talk about this summer though.
What?
Christian Wade.
Oh Lord. Christian Wade, huh? What happened to Antonio Williams? I thought everybody was on that train. What happened to him? Y'all gotta Bills Mafia need to make up their mind which running back y'all love. Y'all love Antonio because only one of them gonna play. Either is it Antonio Williams or is it Christian Wade? Which one y'all love more? It seems like y'all love who was ever most prevalent in the eye at that time.
What have you done for me lately?
Exactly. Like, because last year the year before last when Christian Wade was tearing up in preseason, put him on an active roster. Yeah. Let's go. He's going to be RB1. Yeah. And Antonio Williams has one game. Remember, one game where he snapped, and Antonio Williams should be RB1.
Yeah, in the playoffs.
You got to make up your mind who y'all want to be your RB1. And then, How many people are clamoring for the Bills to take a running back in the first or second rounds? Come on, Bills Mafia. I got to make up your minds, man.
Well, there we go. Thank you. Thank you for coming and listening to the Bills Brawl. EJ, where can the good people of Bills Mafia have a very calm and civilized discussion with you on the social media platforms?
Bills Mafia, you can find me at eDaniel77 on Twitter. You can come with any sports take you want. You can come at me any way you want as long as it's respectful.
And you can find me on Twitter at Charlie_Gross_. We are a part of the Brawl Network. This is the Bills Brawl. This is your Thursday show, The Process. We thank you for listening and hope that you will help us out tremendously by telling a friend, subscribing to the podcast, leaving a review or a rating. That would be absolutely fantastic. We encourage you to check out the Brawl Network. And, of course, Bills Mafia, find a way to embrace your growth mindset. And, as always, trust the process.
Team in the league and we popping up. Home game for the playoffs, but you already know. Gabe Davis is a rookie, but he playing like a pro. Going through a table, only time we ever fold. Can you dig it? 17, about to take us to the bowl. Hey, don't you run it? No. Oliver and Trey Edmonds gon' be on it. We got Corey, but we barely ever punt it. Never. Cause we just running up the score on our opponent. We got Beasley, we got Diggs, Singletary, bout to juke him out of shoes, make him miss, run it in, Zach, also throw the digs, it's for Sig, Terrence Johnson, pick six, to the house, take a flick, hey, it's the Mafia, you know I'm rocking with the Bills, it's the